Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This is your brother Khalik here, and welcome back to Speaker's Corner at the Al-Emaan Center. MashaAllah, I hope you guys have been enjoying the last Speaker's Corners that we've had over the last few weeks during the month of Ramadan, and we've had some lovely speakers and some great topics. And today is another great topic, and we've got a fantastic speaker here, mashallah, all the way from the United States of America, mashallah. And we've got Chaplain Omar Bayramoglu. I hope I pronounced that correctly, mashallah. He was born and raised in New Jersey, USA. He is the oldest of 4 siblings, mashallah, and he is the 3rd graduating class of Zaytuna College in Berkeley, California, class of 2016, mashallah, and a graduate of the Islamic Chaplaincy Program in Hartford Seminary in Hartford, Connecticut, class of 2019. He is currently the Muslim chaplain in Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut, and he recently, mashallah, married his high school sweetheart, Baitul. And you know, he's going to be talking to us today about a beautiful topic of maintaining the spirit of Ramadan, which is coming up to the last 10 days of Ramadan. I think a very great topic to be talking about. Before I hand over to him, just going to mention a couple of things. That one, that if you are watching us from YouTube, please request your questions through the live channel there. And if you have any questions through Zoom, please do use the Q&A section at the bottom. Without further ado, please let me hand you over to Chaplain Omar, mashallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. اللهم صل أفضل صلواتك على أشرف مخلوقاتك سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك الذاكرون وغفل عن ذكرك وذكر الغافلون. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. ربي زدنا علما ربي زدنا علما ربي زدنا علما. اللهم تقبل منا هذا رمضان اللهم آمين. Assalamu alaikum everybody, brothers and sisters from on the other side of the pond. Alhamdulillah. My name is Omar. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you all today. From where I sit, where it's still daylight, and we have about 3 hours left until iftar comes in this time zone. Alhamdulillah. So per Dr. Taha, who's a good friend, Habibi, I was asked to come, and inshallah I'll do my best to meet, to step up to the plate. So as what was said about the title of the talk, maintaining the spirit of Ramadan, as a chaplain, I'd like to take it, kind of sort of through chaplain's approach. And inshallah, it could be a benefit, a reminder for, for every one of us, and, maybe something along the way to be learned, inshallah. So I'd like to take this, this talk, separate into 3 steps, inshallah. Where did you come from? Where are you now? Where do you want to see yourself at the end of it all? So where did you come from? Ramadan is one of those things that, we have a hard time. Some of us can have a hard time with, some of us look forward to. We have that stereotype of the Ramadan Muslim, at least here in the States. It can be a little bit antsy and quite tricky for some of us at different times. And, as a chaplain, I'm trained to sit with people and to address folks. So we need to really come to Ramadan, inshallah, we have all come to Ramadan at a time and in a space where we're honest with each other. A space where we're really truthful in the conversations that we have with ourselves and with the people around us, about this heart that sits inside our rib cage and that, that beats and continues to beat. And inshallah, may Allah give it a good and healthy life. Allahumma ameen. Ramadan is one of those times in the year where we're blessed, alhamdulillah, where Allah gives it to us, where He kind of sort of really does take the reins. There's a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ where he says that, Allah keeps it, how we have the two angels that sit on our sides that record everything during the time of Ramadan. Allah is the one who takes things into account. He's the one that, puts things and rewards it accordingly. And it won't be until the day of judgment we go back and we see our Lord, we get held into account for things that we have done and not done, where the reward for that will then be seen. And inshallah, may Allah make it a good one for all of us. But it's a question then to ask, even at this day, 17th, 18th, 19th day of Ramadan, where we're touching the last 10 days, what kind of person was I like prior to this month starting? The whole stay-at-home orders and the quarantine life, it pushed us in a corner. For some people, quite literally, it pushed us in a corner for us to really then sit with ourselves. And one of the things that we can take away from this, at least with our own personal self-development, is that, inshallah, it's a time for us to really analyze, to look into a mirror and to say, oh, I'm this type of person. Here are the good things about me, and here are the things that need some work. It's a time, inshallah, to be in a state of reflection, that when Ramadan did come, it can be a point where we could sort of hit the ground running. But if that did not happen, don't lose hope. It's Ramadan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet ﷺ, we find in our tradition, where there's such an emphasis on how you end something. Even if you had a weak start, even if you had a slow start at the from the get, there's no reason to give up hope. There's still time to catch up. There's still time to make the best out of the days that are to come. And according to the strongest hadith that we have, it's of the last 10 days where we find Laylatul Qadr, the night of power, where the rewards and the benefit is endless. And that can be its own conversation for another place and time. We find in our tradition amongst, from our scholars, especially specifically for those of the people, the Arifin, the Gnostics, the people of the heart, right? The science goes by many names: Islah al-Qulub, Tasfiyat al-Nafs, Islah al-Nafs. It's a process for us to really chip away at those bad habits. It's a formalized process of doing that. When Imam Busiri writes the poem about the Prophet ﷺ, the Burda, he has a line in there. He has 2 lines in there, consecutive lines, that speaks about just the nature of the nafs. And there's 101 definitions about it. I've best come to understand it as the nafs being that little kid that lives inside of you, the little brat that lives inside of you, each and every one of us, that always wants. They want to take, they want to do this, they want the easy way out. And the shaitan knows how to tempt it. The shaitan knows how to push the right buttons, to poke the right stick. And then from there is now where you become attacked from all sides, and we need to do our best to keep protected. We need to do our best to shield ourselves off from that. Ramadan is now a time for that, where not just worldly distractions are gone, where we're stuck at home, or we're stuck in small tight spaces, disconnected from the community to some extent, but now things of the unseen, a lot of the things that are normally permissible, things that we're allowed to do, that now, if done during daylight, void our fast, are seen as haram, can become just quite problematic. So with this reflection now that we have, to say, now that all this stuff has been stripped away, just like we go through withdrawal symptoms from screens, from devices, from things that we would normally consume, to suddenly go cold turkey, to have it cut off. It's a chance, especially during this Ramadan, unlike many others before us, before this one, for us to take that good look on ourselves, to say, man, I have a lot of work to do. And then to go immediately into dua and ask Allah, Ya Allah, Please give me the success, the tawfiq to get through that. Now, as the days have now come, and we've gone through so many taraweehs, and we've had so many iftars, and the people coming together in some way, shape, or form, we now come to the second point in this. What does life look like right now? We've gone through the first 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks of this. It's a question, it's a time now to ask yourself, have we changed much? Have we read books? Have we learned something new of benefit that we did not know or do before? Have we been reading the Quran? Have we been getting through the ajza? And it's something my mom told me in preparation for this, about when it's me, some of my siblings, my mom, we have a whole khutam thing happening. And my brother started before Ramadan. I wanted to start, on the first night. And my mom said something really interesting. She says, look, Habibi, it's the Quran. It's nice to do it during Ramadan, but to have that mindset, you can almost restrict it, the recitation of the Quran, to only Ramadan. And with the craziness that's happening in the world right now, how many things can we take for granted? Those moments that come and go, how many of them can we really take for granted? It's a chance for us now to be thankful for the journey that we've taken. One thing that chaplains do when we sit with people is to go through an assessment, to try to assess, to see what we're working with. And it's a chance for chaplains to say, okay, here's the course of action that we can take. Or if it's something too serious, or if it's something that's just beyond our scope, we can take it and refer it to a higher, a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, counselor, whatever the case may be. So we have a chance now to address it as needed. An assessment of the self now. How do we go about self-care? I've been listening to a few podcasts here and there, by one through Al-Emaan Wired in particular, that talk about self-care through a Muslim lens in light of quarantine, social distancing, the isolation that we're all going through. It's a chance now for us to really go and to relax, pick up the beads if that's something, to do some dhikr, help with family members in cleaning the house. We have our scholars, Imam Ghazali in particular, who they state the claim, they make the claim and they state the case for the rewards of for the actions and the rewards that come of seemingly mundane things. Time spent with your spouse, time spent with the children, time spent with children's the parent, cleaning up, vacuuming, washing dishes after, iftar or even suhoor, if that's, if it comes to that. To say Bismillah, to be mindful of things. Say, Ya Allah, Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqa warzuqna ittiba'ah. You ask, Ya Allah, please open my eyes to the truth, capital T, and let me benefit from it, bring it close to me. Wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinabah, and to make aware the falsehoods. Batil is something that's is understood to be just vain, very empty. It's something that's hollow, that if you were to crack into it, or if you were to take a look inside, it's just nothing. Like the Arabs say, haki fadi, it's just empty, vain talk. It's a waste of time. And the dua, the Prophet's dua, sallallahu says to keep it away, to push it, to keep it away from me. So it's a chance now for us to really take ourselves into account before we're taken into account. Another dua that we learned that I learned from the Shaykh back in Jersey, my first teacher. It was from the hadith. Allahumma innaka afuwan tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Allahumma innaka afuwan tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. That oh Allah, innaka afuwan, Allahumma innaka afuwan, you are the one who gives afu, who gives a forgiving type of a pardon. Tuhibbul afwa, you love to do that. Fa'fu anna, or fa'fu anni, if you want to do it specifically for yourself. The ya at the end, munasaba, makes it a possessive, but what we find in the hadith, fa'fu anna, and it's of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, that when you're to make dua, to make it for the general. So dua, the na, the noon, alif, happens for yourself, your family, community, and beyond. So Allahumma innaka afuwan tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna, 4 parts. Inshallah, it's something for us to take advantage of. And now as we go through and we wrap up this assessment, we try to see where we've come from. We try to see what that journey was like that brought us to this very point in time. Today, on the 12th of May, 10:15 in your time zone, 5:15 everywhere on the Eastern time zone. And then to see things that we've done good and to celebrate those, to give yourself that pat on the back, to congratulate yourself, to have, inshallah, congratulate each other. And then what is a CPE term, clinical pastoral education chaplain's term, growing edges. Where are those things that you could improve upon? And then from here, we can then transition into the rest of Ramadan and inshallah beyond to ask, where do you want to go? How do you want the end of Ramadan to look like for yourself? Would you like to finish the Quran? Would you like to almost finish the Quran? What would you like to see you become at the end of it all? And then strive to it. The different approaches in terms of planning and goal setting. One that I've come across recently in a very more formalized way, but in a nutshell, is to have that goal that's not too big, intentionally not to put it big, to something grand. Sometimes we have a tendency to do as people. And then to just take the necessary steps and to go for it, just head on, push right through and to get to the end. One that has worked for me and for people around me that I also learned it at the same time was to have a goal and then to have steps, smaller goals along the way. One thing I learned in undergrad was the idea of the concept of a milestone calendar. You have at the end, you have that goal that you'd like to meet, and then you have smaller things along the way that are inshallah there to help make sure that you stay on track. For a person like me, I need that. Some people don't. MashaAllah, may Allah continue to improve you with that skill, with that character trait. But the ability then to go out and to see and to take that, to take the necessary steps. And it's a chance for us through this process, this journey of suluk, as the people of Tasawwuf say, through the spiritual journey through life, where we inshallah learn how to do it with ikhlas. We learn how to inshallah do it with sincerity. Imam Dawood Yassin, who, Omar Taha, if you're listening, Imam Dawood Yassin, he gave us a talk one day after Salat al-Asr, when I was back in the Bay Area in California. And the last words Imam Ghazali was talking about with his students and his family on his deathbed, alayka bil ikhlas. Upon you be ikhlas, sincerity. We have a tendency sometimes to get in the way of our own selves, which happens. Through, alhamdulillah, it's Ramadan, through this month, we have a chance now to really reflect, to know the tendencies of our nafs, to see where the shaitan picks and points and pushes buttons to push us to do things or to do sketchy things or to maybe not make it, things that are problematic, to make us a little bit lazy. Through this process of self-assessment and care, self-care, that we can do with ourselves and we can do with the people around us, through seeing the strengths and weaknesses, we can have a good foundation of how to take forward this ikhlas, how to improve upon this sincerity, and to really, truly do things for the sake of Allah. Through the remaining 2, almost 3 weeks that we have left, find these moments throughout your days, whatever they look like, to maybe say Bismillah before you go and pick up the rug to do your prayers, to say Bismillah before you open up the fridge to take food out to get ready for, for the iftar meal, or for the suhoor, for the morning suhoor meal. To keep in mind that, yes, this is Ramadan, to actually tell that to yourself. One thing, Abu Zayd al-Balkhi, who's a 9th century physician from Balkh, which is in modern day Afghanistan, He has a book about the sustenance of the body and the soul. And when it comes to the soul, it's been recently translated into English. You can find it on Amazon, The Sustenance of the Soul, Abu Zayd al-Balkhi, where one of the things that he says, and it's something that's truly, truly Islamic that we can find in our own tradition, is that for us to get out of a rut, for us to remind ourselves, sometimes we have really literally have to, whether you write it on a piece of paper or you type it on a screen, and to sit there and to read it. Say Bismillah before you do blank. You're going to go pray in front of Allah. Keep in mind, ... To leave yourself these notes that something inside, after reading it so many times, will rewire. It's a natural thing of the brain to rewire and to, inshallah, help improve one's psyche and to take it further to something, inshallah, more beneficial. And so through this journey as well, when looking out to the finish line, to say that, oh, this is what I'd like to, this is the type of person I would like to be. Through it all, we try to do tawbah. We try to ask Allah for forgiveness, for pardon. Allahumma innaka afoon tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. We try to put into practice as well as of the things that we've learned. The things that we've learned along the way to improve upon experiences, to sit with the elderly folks, if that's something that we're all blessed to do. I sadly lost all my grandparents, but now I have a grandmother-in-law whom I talk to every so often, and she gives me good advice, alhamdulillah. So I'll take it. But to go and to sit and to just be with the elderly, to get some wisdom, to see, hey, grandma, grandpa, baba, mama, whatever, however, in your native tongue or whatever means of communication that you have with them, to learn and to grow and to, inshallah, gain something. Find those gems that you can take, keep in your heart, and apply somewhere later down the line. We have huge emphasis in our tradition, a huge emphasis in our religion of really putting to practice what you know. In a small talk that I gave a few days ago, I do a khutbah online for my students, for students at the university, of just different moments and points in our tradition where we have time and time again the Prophet ﷺ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying, baby steps. Don't give up. Baby steps. As long as you keep trucking along, you come that 1 inch, Allah will come that foot. You come with an arm's length, Allah will come to you with more of that. You come walking, Allah will come running. You come running, Allah will come faster. Never give up. And there'll be times in our lives that as we go, we inshallah turn a new leaf, we try to look out and to create a better path for ourselves. We're going to be distracted. We're going to fall on our faces. Things are going to be a little bit difficult. That's the dunya. Ibn Ata'illah Iskandari, it's the great scholar who's buried in Alexandria. May Allah make it blessed for the people of Alexandria, the greater of Egypt as well. I mean, he says in his book of aphorisms that when the dunya goes crazy, when something crazy happens in life, at least in this mode of existence, don't be surprised. Don't let it overwhelm you. It's a thing that, I'm going to side tangent, it's very important. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. The Prophet ﷺ cried. He was sad. He went into shock. He was nearing depression at times. If we look at his description of the first moment of revelation, runs to Khadija radiallahu anha, and she passed away in a few days ago, about a week ago this month. Zambuluni, Zambuluni. If you just look at the description of the Prophet's face, it was white. He was in a state of shaking, just not knowing what to do. That it was just very heavy. When we look at Hamid Huzn, it was very heavy. So it's okay to be sad, but don't let it overwhelm you too much. And that's the point that Ibn Ata'illah is saying. That we improve upon ourselves, we try to gain some level of closeness to Allah between here and when that point comes, that when the hisab does come, when the imtihan, when that test, when the hardship does come, the blow can be softened a bit. that when we fall in Allah's hands. When we fall into sajda, that we make that dua. And when we're on the ground, that there's somebody there, inshallah, who can dust us off and pick us back up. That then it's through moments like these that a community can then become bigger and greater, inshallah. So I'll conclude one piece of advice, something I tell myself a lot, I tell the people around me. As long as you're better today, than you were yesterday, even by a little bit. And as long as tomorrow you're gonna be a little bit better today, even by a little bit. And as long if we keep doing this, inshallah, then on that last day, inshallah, Allah make it our best day. Allahumma ameen. And this becomes something of great success, and it just becomes something of great understanding, inshallah. That we know, we understand, we can really learn, and inshallah gain wisdom from this thing called life. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين.
Jazakallahu khair.
وإياكم.
Omar, that's a beautiful reminder for us and really eloquently put. Thoroughly enjoyed each and every part of that, and some really great takeaways there, mashallah. We just got a couple of questions coming in already, but just whilst a few of the other ones come in from the various different people who have been watching and learning from you, mashallah. I had a really quick question for you, actually.
Bismillah.
You mentioned so beautifully, actually, about falling into the hands of Allah. And I think that that's a beautiful way of putting it, to kind of set ease to the heart. But could you sort of expand on that a little bit and tell me a little bit about how one tries to achieve that sense of feeling that they are sort of falling into the hands of Allah?
Bismillah. Well, the first to keep in mind and to always remember, to remind yourself, to remind each other, it's a process. It takes progress. People who have spoken to you guys, and for those that are listening, it takes time for each and every one of us to grow and to learn and to be the person who we are today. I found my calling, I found my path in doing chaplaincy, and these moments have come for me to sit with people outside of my immediate community. I could say, just sharing a bit for myself, when I look back and I see the journey that I've taken, all the things that, alhamdulillah, I got right, and all the things that I got wrong, some of them where I learned my lesson, and me being a knucklehead, I still sometimes, I have some work to do. It's through this journey that we gain the wisdom and we gain an understanding in life. And through what a mentor, he said that we try to go and to learn about experiential tawheed. When you go and you really put to practice what you've been taught, when you apply what you can to your own personal life, to the immediate people around you, siblings, spouses, children, if they're around, how can we then take that extra step? So we do what we can to, inshallah, soften the load. We are thankful. One of the things to really, to come to understand that, to better answer your question, is after doing all these things, to be thankful for the good and to say astaghfirullah for the bad, and to keep pushing, to try to constantly, consistently improve. So then when Allah does send you this test, send you this imtihan, and it pushes you to fall, you'll be ready. You'll be really a different person than you were before it. And that's why the first question that I asked, what was your journey like before coming here? What was that spiritual journey like, the religious journey like, that personal, emotional, intellectual, all these different ways that we can answer it? What was it like prior to this point? What is it like now? And how do you want it to look like in the future? And with it, we, inshallah, when we put to practice what we've been taught, simple things, giving the salams, holding the door open, yarhamukallah when somebody sneezes, alhamdulillah when you do sneeze. These little things add up, and that's what I've come to notice about our deen. It's the little things that add up. So inshallah, we can then become aware of Allah's presence, that in Hadith Jibreel, in the second question that's asked by the angel Gabriel, أخبرني عن الإحسان. And the Prophet, Jibreel asked, give me khabar, give me information about ihsan, spiritual excellence, which is oftentimes it's translated to. The Prophet says, "And ta'bud Allah ka'annaka tarahu," that you worship Allah as if you can see Him. And this is an inner sight, a sight of the basira, a sight of the heart. فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. That if you are not quite yet at that maqam, if you have yet to reach that point in your own personal journey, that just remember, keep it in the back of your mind. He's watching you. So we can take from there as well. It's through this journey that we can have, that we take, we try to improve upon ourselves day in and day out to keep ourselves in check. And when that time does come, we will, inshallah, be in a better place to be more aware and cognizant that yes, Allah. And when it is time to fall, you can then notice, inshallah, that you fall into a bed of mercy. May Allah, if you're going through that right now, some type of craziness, may Allah alleviate you, pick you out of this hardship, and put you in a beautiful place. And if that is yet to come, may Allah bless you and make it easy for you when that time does come.
Oh, beautifully put. Jazakallah khair.
But yeah,
Jazakallah. Thank you. Thank you. So there's a couple more questions actually, and you can see them yourself as well on the Q&A. But I'll read them out so that we can all benefit from the question. So the first one is Assalamu alaikum. Such a refreshing reminder. Jazakallah khair. My question is, you spoke about nafs. I struggle to control my nafs while shaitan is locked up. Can you advise how I take control of my nafs? Well, that's the first part of it. And the second part of the question is also, sorry to be cheeky, but can I ask what the difference is between a chaplain and an imam?
Yes, I'll do the easy question first. An imam is an imam, somebody who's gone through so many years of religious, proper religious education with an isnad, with travel, with journey, with maturation, and after that, with an application of it. There are books that can be found and lectures about what the ideal imam looks like from descriptions written by the greatest of scholars before us. A chaplain is somebody who's familiar with the Islamic tradition, not quite to the level of imam, I guess in a classical traditional sense, at least in the States. I'm also part of a group chat on WhatsApp of UK Muslim chaplains. So I did a nice little peek of what's going on in your guys' country. MashaAllah, Allah make it easy, give y'all the tawfiq and success necessary to have a good, healthy community.
I mean,
you can think of it, as a chaplain, they know a bit about fiqh and aqidah and hadith and tasawwuf and stuff like that, but they're also trained in some type of mental health. My mental health teacher, he says chaplain is a mental health first responder. Just like a paramedic is a first responder, there's a car accident, the ambulance comes, the medics, they come, they check on you, they see how you're doing, and if necessary, you go to the hospital. If not, then you get handled and dealt with accordingly. So chaplain is a mental health first responder, somebody who's there to really just sit and to pick at things that may dwell or press upon you. It's something that is not really found, at least to my knowledge, I don't with the friends and the conversations and the classes that I've had, at least in my knowledge of an imam would actually go through. But to not dwell on that too long, to get to your first question, this struggling of the nafs is always tricky. Dr. Omar Bayramoglu of Chicagoland and in Illinois, in the United States, he says that if you think you've gotten your nafs under control, you're going to be doomed. Like it's that thing that we try to really, hopefully understand. Now with the nafs, it's described as, it's a part of you. It's a part of who you are. It's really profound hadith. Man arafa nafsahu arafa rabbahu, wa man arafa rabbahu arafa nafsahu. The one who knows themselves will know their Lord. And there's another riwayah, there's a flip, wordplay flips. Wa man arafa rabbahu, the one who knows their Lord knows themselves. So let this be a chance, inshallah, for you and for everybody else that's struggling or that has issues with it, that we try to have, to take two steps, two approaches at it. One, we get to know ourselves better. What are your goals, aspirations, your strengths, your weaknesses? What type of person are you? What do you hold to heart? What do you hold near and dear? And then at the same time, try to understand Allah. Islamic theology is described as a negative theology, not necessarily negative as meaning something bad, but negative as in to say Allah says, I am not, dot, dot, dot. And you find in the Quran, Allah describes himself as certain things. What are those? We have the 99 names of Allah. We have the descriptions that follow from those as well. Who is this Lord that put you in your place right now, today, wherever you are, sitting behind your screen? Another way to do it, Shaykh Hamza Yusuf, he's having, there's class 3, I think it's tomorrow, which you can watch the replays if the time zone is too much for you, where he's talking about the Quran. And the Quran then becomes a means for Allah to speak to you. You try, inshallah, you try to pick out whether you read the Arabic and the English side by side, or the Arabic and whatever your native language is side by side. But it's a chance, or even to have multiple translations. That's something that I heard it was emphasized a few times, to do for people who are not quite really proficient in Arabic, to have multiple translations of the same language, whatever language that may be for you. And try to take the ethics and the morals from the Quran. Try to take those things that Allah speaks about, who the ideal abid is, or abida is, who the ideal servant, the worshiper is, to take that and to put that into practice. To go back to Abu Zayd al-Balkhi's book, another thing that what he speaks about is that as a means of therapy, to really go and to put into practice and to apply and to live by the standards that may just be a little bit higher than what you currently are right now. So essentially what you're doing is that you're pushing away any of these bad traits from your heart, and you want to replace those with something more virtuous, more ethical, more moral. And it's a process. It's going to be hard in the beginning. But as Imam Busiri said, that, if you wean yourself just like a baby's weaned from a milk bottle and make a lot of dua, Allah will give you the success. There's that sincerity that I'm going to mention again, that's there to, inshallah, make it a true and pure journey for you. Allahumma ameen.
Jazakallah khair. Next question is, you spoke about connecting with our elders. However, modern day youngsters find more benefit in the mobile devices. How do we help them understand the benefits they will gain from them before they leave us?
In my experiences, and being around hammos and khaltas and aunties and uncles, and now being 32 myself on this awkward phase, it's a two-way street. The most successful ones I've seen and I've heard about are one where there's a two-way street. There's a give and take. It's not totalitarian. One has to give up entirely for the other to be there for that person. It's a chance for both those a little higher in age, the elderly, can learn about what life is like for young people. And likewise, it's a chance for the young people to go and to learn what, wisdoms and to take these gems. And through this, and then, sorry, and so then, to wrap it up, so I didn't mean to cut you off, bro, I'm sorry. So then, to inshallah, let that be just, a give and take relationship where both parties can benefit. And I know it sounds like very formal business legal thing, but to let both sides benefit from that interaction. To put down the phone for a bit, and then for, mama, baba, mother, father, to sit and to try to understand really what life is. That, and I'll wrap up with a saying, Ali, he says to the parents as they're raising their children, they're living in a different time. You need to adjust accordingly as you're doing your upbringing. And children, we're living in a different time. and we need to really take from those that came before us. So it's a two-way street. Finished.
Beautiful, Jazakallah khair. Sorry, I thought you'd stop talking
No,
then.
no,
So
sorry,
my
yeah, my
apologies,
bad.
my apologies. So we're sort of coming quite close to the ending of the time that we have, but there's two more questions left. So I think they're kind of almost related, inshallah. So I'm going to try to give them both to you, and maybe you can sort of answer them together, and if you don't mind, conclude with a short dua, inshallah. So the first one is, can you describe how it is to be a Muslim in the current US climate? And the second one is, thank you, Sheikh. Can I ask what kind of mental health issues do you face amongst the Muslim communities that you deal with?
Bismillah. What it is, how it is to be Muslim in the current US climate. Awkward, and generally speaking, because the United States is such a big country. It's a, if you stop and sleep during the day and get gas, it takes about 3 days to go east to west. I took a train ride trip cross country, took about 4 days and about 4.5 days coming back. And that's with refueling and a few breaks along the way. So it's a huge country, and just American culture by itself, religion aside, Christian, Jewish, Islam, whatever, even the culture is different. You have coastal America, you have big city America, you have America of the South, you have America in the Northeast, and each has its own particular dynamic. Now, to reinsert the Muslim in this conversation, it depends on where the Muslim lives. If they're in a community, I met a few students who, the young lady, I asked, I said, well, what's the Muslim community like around here? She's like, yeah, not so much. She didn't have she had one Muslim friend all the way until she became a freshman in college. And that's where she was first exposed to, other Muslims from different parts of the world. In my university, kind of sort of am with that as well. Just students who come already with their baggage, with things that they've learned, and get exposed to other ideas, other opinions, just as valid, maybe even more, if you want to get into usul. So it's very particular. I know I can at least speak for myself. I was born and raised in northern New Jersey, has one of the biggest, most densely populated, diverse Muslim communities in the United States. And I had Muslim friends thanks to the working, the doings of Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam, and the early hip hop music being in in an urban city. The whole idea of being Muslim and what that means was something that was easy for me and my siblings. But I've had friends from other cities on the other side of New Jersey or even in other states where they didn't have it as easy. So alhamdulillah, it's very particular. And to transition into the last question, what kind of Muslim mental health issues? For the longest time, post 9/11, that became a thing. With the coming of President Trump, 45, our Boris Johnson, some things with the whole 9/11 thing were re-triggered. I've come to see that there's a whole thing with identity. There was a talk from my community last Tuesday about where they're asking the question of whether we are Muslim Americans or American Muslims. And just the greater conversation that goes about doing that. There's a sociological approach, there's a linguistic approach, there's a religious approach. And then there's how are you going to fit all that into your own crazy world that you currently live in? And I'm sure the framework is at least the same that could be applied anywhere else in the world. Are you a British Muslim? Are you a Muslim Brit? What does that look like? What does it mean to be British? What does it mean to be Muslim? Where do they overlap? We have very beautiful American values, volunteerism, family, the striving for truth and justice, which are all very Islamic things. And pretty sure the same thing could be, for what's going on, for life like in the UK. What are those things that are very truly British that overlap and fit well within the Islamic paradigm, the Islamic context framework? And how can then it be improved upon? And then what are those things that maybe not jive or go well? So identity is a thing. There's also, in terms of just seeking mental health, there's a stigma behind it. A lot of that came post 1965. The United States passed an immigration bill that opened the door for people from all over the world, and in our case, specifically from Muslim majority countries, to come to the United States, and they took advantage of it, alhamdulillah. And we see in the 80s, and then especially in the 90s, the building and the formation of masajid and Islamic schools. 9/11 came, that threw a monkey wrench into things. Stigmas and things that happen from back home, wherever that may be for people, were brought along, which includes mental health and jinn and the brain and how much you should be praying and olive oil and all these home remedies. It's a problem, something that I sometimes have to sit with people and to just say, hey, look, like something, this, and there's the whole spiel that comes along with it. So yeah, alhamdulillah, that's just, a few points for life like on this side of the pond. Alhamdulillah.
Oh, Jazakallah khair. It's been enlightening. It's been really amazing, and actually I can't even see how the time went so quickly, mashallah. I've just could listen to you all evening, mashallah.
No, eventually.
No, it's been beautiful. We've run out of time, unfortunately. If you could just maybe, if you don't mind, giving us a short dua, and then we'll conclude at that point. Jazakallah khair.
Yeah, apologies everybody if I went over time, if it's too late imposing on people's taraweehs. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على طاعتك. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Ya Allah, we ask you here together, connected through technology and screens from all over the world, Ya Allah, to please accept from us this Ramadan, to accept from us and forgive us for the foolish things, problematic things that we may have done all those years before this point. Inshallah, this can be a Ramadan maqbool, a Ramadan that's accepted, Ya Allah. That inshallah, you give us the wisdom and the light to see the path that goes to Sirat al-Mustaqim, that keeps us on Sirat al-Mustaqim. That you allow us to be truthful and honest with ourselves, Ya Allah, that we may take ourselves into account before you take us into account on that day. And inshallah, let our last day be our last. Ya Allah, please, for those brothers and sisters who have passed away, wherever they are in the world from COVID-19, that you bless them and accept from them, and to make their time in the grave and beyond a place of ease, rest, and relaxation, Ya Allah, that they die of the status of shaheed, Ya Allah, that you guide our leaders and our community leaders and our scholars to help us make the right decisions from here on out in terms of when to allow people back in the masajid and to go back to doing Salat al-Jum'ahs. Ya Allah, اللهم آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله والعفو منكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Jazakallahu khair. We hope to see you very soon, inshallah. Take care.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.